Hello, everyone. Today I will be interviewing Stefania, who is a postdoctoral researcher who completed her education from the University of Oxford.
Yeah, so I guess I started as a bachelor's student. I did my undergraduate studies in Crete, and then I moved to Oxford where I did my master's and PhD, and then I'm currently in Arizona completing my postdoctoral studies.
So, what steps did you take to pursue your passion in your field as a researcher?
So yes, from very early on, I was interested in both science and music, but for today, I'd probably like to focus more on the research part because this is the job I currently have. So the steps I took for that aspect of my career were that I started my undergraduate studies at the University of Crete, and I studied biology, and specifically molecular biology and biotechnology. And then I worked in a lab for about a year. And that's quite important because if you want to do research after, you have to show that you have some lab experience at least. And ideally, if some papers, some publications come out of that, that's really helpful for the next steps. So luckily, we published 2 papers during my undergraduate studies, and I think that helped me quite a lot to get some scholarships then to study at Oxford, the master's and PhD degree. And there, because I had done quite a lot of molecular biology in Crete, I wanted to study something slightly different, which is evolution. So I studied the evolution of multicellularity. So that's how and why single cells form groups. And then an interesting part, which maybe some people don't think about, is that once you form these cooperative groups, then these groups can break apart when there's like a selfish cell that doesn't listen to the rest of the cooperative cells. So this is kind of a cheating phenomenon, but also cancer can be seen as a similar cheating phenomenon inside the multicellular body. So after Oxford, I wanted to look into this phenomenon more widely. So Arizona State University, I've been studying cancer across the animal kingdom. Yeah.
Cool. And what is for when you held the fellowship or whatever job you held, what was like a typical day or week for you? Like, what are your main responsibilities? What did you do as a researcher?
Yeah, so mostly my duties were to do the research we had agreed with my advisor. So that was a comparative oncology. So as I said, cancer across species. And at that stage, you're given a lot of independence. So although you may have regular meetings with the rest of the people in your group, you are given lots of independence to kind of think of your own ideas, to explore the literature, and write your own manuscripts almost entirely by yourself. You have to kind of write the first draft, and then usually the collaborators kind of check, but it's mostly independent work. And yeah, mostly research and lots of meetings. I also supervised other students in our group. We're working on some statistics, and so it's very collaborative, although deeply speaking, I did miss, like during the pandemic, I did miss seeing people in person. So most of our collaborative work was remote. But again, research was done, so that's the good part of it. We had the end product. Yeah.
So what did you wish you knew before you joined your respective field? Like, do you have any advice for what high schoolers or undergrads should do before pursuing researching?
Yeah, so I thought a lot about this question in the past, and like it depends a lot on your expectations. Like when I began research in Crete and then in Oxford, I didn't really have any expectations about, you have some standard expectations that you're going to go to university, and that's a great place to learn and meet new people and form great collaborations. But there are some things that I did wish I knew then, like I thought research was kind of almost quick and easy, kind of, yeah, simply speaking, but in reality it can take a very long time. um, and lots of reasons, lots of things can slow things down. Like it could be funding, it could be something about a collaborator taking a maternity leave, or some unexpected things like COVID, or like different people in different time zones, which delays responses. So there's lots of things. And like, I didn't know that at all when I started. So there's lots of real practical things that can slow things down, or even like an experiment that can go wrong in the lab, and it's not the person's fault. It's something with a water leakage or a fire in the lab. So there's lots of unexpected things. And I don't really know how somebody can plan for that like beforehand, but this is just something to bear in mind. Another thing that is really important, which I hadn't really realized before I came into university, is like I used to trust like top-notch journals or institutions or individuals in what they say and how they act. But when you read very critically any paper, you always find some kind of mistakes. I mean, not in every paper, but just my advice for new people coming into research is to read papers or articles very critically. And something I was advised is like a manuscript is full of words, but the main story is really in the data. So you should first look at the data and what the data show, and then try and see if that data is accurately represented by what the people actually say in the rest of the paragraphs. So yeah, just generally critically read. And that, to get to that point, you have to, the more you read, the better you are at critically reading others' writing. So it's kind of a loop there. Another thing I've kind of written lots of notes here. It's like when you reach the about the master's or PhD level, you gradually feel like your supervisor is not taking care of you, or doesn't reply to your emails, or doesn't respond to you that quickly. But it's all kind of a stage into molding you into being more independent. So that's kind of something that I was kind of being told in various different ways that they were going to build my independence in that way. But you don't quite realize it until it happens on a regular basis. So that's kind of a piece of advice that I would give. It's not that your collaborators or supervisor doesn't care about you, it's that they're trying to give you time and freedom to find your own answers. Like there's no point in constantly asking your supervisor questions all the time, because at some point you'll be on your own. So they want to teach you how to find answers yourself. Of course, I mean, you can ask them. Another thing, just if we have time, like I noticed whilst traveling to different countries and different labs, that each lab can have different perspectives about the same problem. So like for the evolution of multicellularity, there's different perspectives. There's different theories about how it could happen. And so it's important not to stick with one lab and one perspective your whole life. I think it's really important to, read other people's work, but also if you have the opportunity to travel and stay some time with other collaborators. And I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned hardships. Do you have any advice for high schoolers so they are better prepared to combat these challenges?
Yeah, the most important thing I noticed when I was growing up is, I think something that most teachers say is like, try to fill up your gaps. If you notice that you have any gaps in your knowledge that are important in the field, try to fill them before you start undergraduate studies, before you start your master's, because the more you grow into these different levels, you're expected to know these things. So people don't give you time to go to the library and search for these things. So for example, I noticed myself and lots of other friends and people I've collaborated with, so sometimes weak in statistics. So for me, and I wish there was a bit more of, it's difficult because the whole system of education. I mean, I was brought up in Greece, so I don't know exactly how it's in different countries. But for example, in Greece, you specialize into, say, you have to give exams in maths, chemistry, physics, and what else? And biology, and writing, like English writing, well, Greek writing in Greece. So you're examined in those 5 courses, say, in the final year of your, what's it? Yeah, something like A levels in England. So at that stage in your, just before university. So examined on those 5 things. But then, if you're like, if one of those, say you don't write well in your Greek literature exam, that may mean that you won't pass into medicine, but maybe you're excellent in biology and chemistry and maths and physics. So I think that it's not entirely up. It depends on which country each person is, but it's sometimes the education system doesn't entirely help with kind of adjusting to each person's needs or what they want in life. So I think it's a kind of a balance between, like, I mean, it's difficult to say, but if you can travel to a country that fits your kind of how you think of science or your educational progress, I think that would be better for each student. Like, it's very difficult to make an education system, I think, that's very personalized for each student. But I think after university, I feel that there's more freedom for each person to make more individualized choices. Like, I definitely found that, like, when I chose my field for the master's degree, I was almost free to choose anything, really. I mean, based on my background, I was probably more skilled or fit for applications that related to biology and not, say, physics or chemistry. But within the field of biology, I had the freedom to choose almost entirely what I wanted. So I think that's quite great. And I mean, the training that you said, I mean, I mentioned statistics, and experience also helps. Like, I would suggest, say, for people, to high school students or whoever is in this stage, to take every opportunity possible. Like, if there's a science festival in your area, that if you can participate in that and be in the organizing committee or volunteer in some way, or something like a volunteer in a museum, or make your own little business with science podcasts or anything you can think of that just you enjoy and it's related to science. I think that's really important as well, because it shows to the committee that's going to judge you that you're really interested and enthusiastic in science, and you're already very independent, and that helps a lot.
That was very profound advice. Do you have any last words before we conclude this interview?
I mean, another thing that it depends on each person's personality. It depends on each student's personality, but I would say be brave wherever you are and ask questions. Like, I know that can be a limiting factor when you're in a huge amphitheater with hundreds of students and you're afraid to raise your hand. Like, if you are afraid to raise your hand, I mean, just maybe at the end of the lesson, just go to the whoever's teaching the lesson and ask them questions, or email them after. Like, try in every way to don't miss lessons. Like, I know that people, like collaborators in their undergraduate stages, it has been very difficult for them to catch up when they miss lessons. I mean, again, it's a personal thing. Like, if somebody can record it and they're okay with following a recorded lesson, that's fine. But in general, I say, don't miss lessons, be brave, ask questions. And another thing, challenge what is known. Like, teachers might say to you something, a fact about science, but always be very critical, as I said in the beginning. Like, Go back to the literature and ask yourself, why is that the case? Why did Einstein think like that? Why did Newton think of that? Is there a different way we could think about it? Like, these are really like, I think this is where the big discoveries come. Like, don't stop asking questions.
And that's like the essential of science, and especially in researching, don't stop asking questions. Yeah. So that concludes our interview. Thank you so much, Stefania, for your time, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.